Hey there, welcome back to my hotel room in Geneva. We have just had day 2 of Watches and Wonders, and I wanted to talk about one of the favorite watches that I saw today. One of my favorite formal watches that I saw today, one of the best formal watches that I've seen all week. And this is a new watch from Parmigiani Toric called the Toric. The Toric is a watch that was introduced alongside, the introduction of the brand back in 1996. This year it is getting a new generation with 3 new watches. These are 2 time-only watches in one limited edition Rattrapante chronograph. These are all precious metal watches, all 3. There are 2 time-only watches, the Petite Seconde watches. These come in rose gold and in platinum with beautifully executed dials. We'll get into that in a minute. Now, when I said that these are all precious metal watches, I really mean that they were all precious metal watches. The cases are precious metal, the dials are precious metal, the movement is precious metal. They have gone all out in adding this here, but ironically, they are quite subtle in their execution, particularly the platinum version. Now, these watches are a real exercise in restraint from Parmigiani Toric. The dials are done really beautifully. They have this exceptionally subtle texture that looks a little bit like fine-grained sandpaper in some lights, a little cloudy and smoky in others. It's very tactile, very satisfying. It's really beautifully done here, and I think both of these watches, these Petite Seconde watches, turned out really beautifully, and there is no other complications on the watches. The hour markers are relegated to the very edge, so this texture really has a chance to sing on its own, and the colors themselves are really interesting. The platinum example has something close to a sagey color. There's maybe some light hints of green in there, or light gray green. It's called gray celadon, and it works just beautifully here. And again, I think this works because there's nothing else really going on the dial, so it really has a chance to stand up on its own. Now, the rose gold dial also has the same texture, and it's called sand gold, and this is a little bit warmer. Goes with the case really well, and the straps on both of these watches accent the dial, but without overpowering it, which is really important here. There's a lot of subtlety in these watches, as I mentioned, and they're really watches that become more interesting the closer you look at them. And it's like that from every angle here. There is a slight coinage bezel. These are 40mm watches. They're about 8.5mm in thickness. They use manually wound movements that are beautifully finished on the backside as well, as you might expect. And there's even an Easter egg in the movement with the signature of Michel Parmigiani, the founder of Parmigiani Toric, in the movement itself between the 2 barrels of the movement. Now, there's also a third version here that is a Rattrapante chronograph. I think the effect, the subtle effect, is kind of lost when they add some of the complications, but it's done in a minimal enough way that I think it still works. It's still beautiful, but the case is a bit bigger, of course, and a bit thicker. The movement itself is, of course, beautiful on that one, but I think these 2 time-only Petite Seconde versions are really interesting watches, and hopefully open the door to a really beautiful new collection from Parmigiani Toric. And of course, this is a brand that is riding a lot of momentum thanks to the Tonda collection that they have been fleshing out over the past couple of years in really great ways. And this is thanks to the CEO Guido Tarani and his vision. He, of course, comes from Bulgaria, so he's done this before there, and he's doing a little bit of the same thing with Parmigiani Toric. I really like where his head is at here, and a lot of the little details show exactly how much he thinks about this stuff, and they are really focused on execution, and they get every little detail right, it seems like. So I really love what they've done here with these new Toric models. The rose gold version is priced at $48,400, while the platinum version is priced at $55,900. Now, these formal watches are a little bit outside of my wheelhouse personally, as a guy that really enjoys kind of old school funky tool watches, and watches that I can beat up. These are kind of the opposite of that, but there's really something beautiful to behold here and to enjoy, and truthfully to appreciate about these watches. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about them, so be sure to drop your comments down below. We have much more coming from day 2 of Watches and Wonders 2024. I appreciate you staying tuned in for all of our coverage, and again, lots more to come. So if you're not subscribed, be sure to get subscribed. A like and a share helps out a lot as well. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, take care.